Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to CARE's The Daily Dose. I'm Danette Zagari-Mass, nonprofit attorney at CARE, and your host for this evening. This is a nightly program, and we hope that you're going to join us here every night, Monday through Friday. We're going to adjust our schedule a little bit. We've been doing it at 8 p.m. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to CARE's. That's my phone in the background. We're going to be adjusting the schedule a little bit and moving the live session up. We'll announce that later, but we'll continue to have the program played in the evening for you. So again, Monday through Friday, join us. This is CARE's The Daily Dose, COVID Conversations with CARE. Looking at the news today, over 820,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19, over 2.5 reported globally. If you want to go to our newsroom website, carenewsroom.com, we have the Johns Hopkins ticker right up there in the right-hand corner, and you can keep track of all the cases that are being reported and coming in. We've expanded our programs right now to include this for you, to bring you closer to the people and to the stories within our community during this pandemic, which is, such a trial. Even though we're separated by our circumstances of social isolation, we thank Allah for the tools that we have, the technology, and the experts that give their time to come on here each night and share their insights with us. And we call this conversations because it is a conversation. So we hope that you will go to the Facebook page. If you have a question, type it in there. This is meant to be interactive. My friend Ayan, who's in the background, she's running this whole show, is going to, put them in our blue room so that we can see what the questions are, and we'll be asking them live as they're coming in. So if you have a question and you want to ask an expert in education, this is the perfect opportunity. But let's get started. So I want to do is Abeer Shinnawi, a friend of mine and a fellow community member. She's a middle school resource teacher for the Office of Social Studies for a county-wide public school. Her job gives her the opportunity to work with every middle school social studies department in her county. As a resource teacher, she writes curriculum, provides professional development, and represents her county as needed. Her teaching career has spanned over 17 years in middle school social studies classes, which also includes 8 years of teaching students with autism. Her latest project was presented at state and national conferences on the topic of addressing needs of Muslim and Arab students. She also created a mentoring program in the county titled Message: Mentoring, Empowering, Supporting Students in Equity. This mentoring program is for students who are refugees and/or ELL students, which provides a platform to express their ideas, emotions, and give them an opportunity to navigate the world around them. She's also founder and owner of Altair Education Consulting LLC, which is an education consultant company that has worked on curriculum guides, professional development, teacher guides for student books, and her current project creates a Google Classroom book club for the book Stamped. I've checked out her materials actually for my own kids. They're fabulous. I can't say enough good things about Abeer, knowing her personally and also on professional level. She has a postmaster's degree in special education from Johns Hopkins, not an easy thing to do. And in her personal life, she's a mother of 3. So we have that in common. Abeer, yes. Married and first generation Palestinian American from the south side of Chicago. Welcome, Abeer. How are you doing this evening?
Alhamdulillah. How are you, Danette? Thank you for having me on tonight.
We get the whole half hour, just me and you. We can do anything we want.
I think we would need more than a half hour, but that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do what we can, right?
We'll do what we can. So yes. We're going to talk about education. This is the first time a lot of people like well, not me, actually. I homeschooled at one point in my children's education, but this is definitely the first time I've ever worked, full time, and also had my children with me during the time. It's a lot of fun. So, a lot of parents, were expecting, they had summer plans, but all of a sudden overnight, really, our kids, came in our house all the time, 24/7. Yeah.
Right.
So I just want to know, can you reopen the school? Can you just open it for us?
Can I do that? I wish, that added to the list of all the other things that people want me to create with my magic wand. Honestly, like that, even if we open the schools, kids are just going to be hanging out with nobody there, because I know teachers are not ready to go back unless they are certain that, this whole COVID-19 is totally gone.
I need you to open the school. I love teachers more now than I have ever loved teachers before. Okay.
You're not alone with that one, Danette. I can tell you for a fact, you are not alone with that ideology and that concept.
If the teachers of my children are watching, I love you. Please open the school. I want to see that. Okay. So let's talk about, how we can help parents like myself, all kinds of situations. Some people are even, single parenting, or they're, they have to leave home. They might be on the front lines. The kids are at home. And, states are varying in terms of how they're handling education. So, some are really going hard with the virtual online schooling, and some counties or states are more hands off. So, really, you wrote a great article on the Care Newsroom. So I hope everyone goes and checks it out. It's in our experts column, where you give very practical advice on how to work with your kids and think differently in terms of education during this period. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I think the first thing that parents need to understand is they have to be very patient with what's going on. This isn't something that anybody in the school system ever predicted. And it's just as jarring and as traumatic for teachers and those who are working for the school systems as anybody else. Teachers are parents, they're also caregivers, they're educators, they're single parents, or they live in multi-family households. And the relationships that a lot of teachers have with their students has also shifted, in a sense that because this was so abrupt, teachers weren't given enough time to sit there and really adjust enough and create that adjustment for their students. So not only are students sitting here thinking, what's going on, teachers are pretty much thinking the same thing. Like, what are we going to be doing? Where are we going to be going with this? So I think the very first, most important concept is patience, navigating what's going on one day at a time. Long-term planning right now doesn't really matter, and it's not really going to count because things are changing so fast. So I would be very patient with your own children if you are teaching them at home.
I'm trying.
I know. I know a lot of people are, and I know
a lot of days I'm doing better than others. Okay.
Well, I'm fortunate because my daughters vary in age, and there's a large age range between them. So alhamdulillah, they're self-sufficient. They can help each other. But if we have parents who have kids who are, similar in age, or all elementary or all middle school or whatever, I can see that struggle right there. So I think being patient, also providing the structure. Kids went from total structure to absolutely no structure to now almost chaos for them. And it's very difficult for kids, especially if they're younger, to understand what's going on. And so they are going to be looking at the adults for that guidance, and to see exactly how they're going to also be navigating this world that we're in right now, because they themselves are not mature enough to express how they're feeling. They're internalizing a lot of what they're saying and feeling and seeing. So they really are going to be looking towards the adults for some of that. So of course, patience is one of the biggest virtues that people can practice. I would also, the second most important thing right now is content is important, but building skill sets, I think, is even more important.
Tell me about that. What do you mean building skill sets?
I think we tend to forget that what goes on in a classroom or in a school setting, most of the times it's not just content memorizing either, this theory or this formula, or knowing the dates of this battle, but the skill set that comes with learning a new content or a new lesson. So what I mean by skill sets, like I said in my article, like the soft skills, our kids learning to advocate for themselves, our kids learning to organize their time, our kids knowing how to regulate their emotions when they get frustrated. These are all soft skills that kids really need to work on. And now is the best time to do it, because if they're at home, like you said, with you 24/7, and you're getting frustrated, they're getting frustrated, this is an opportunity to sit there and say, okay, let's talk this out. What's going on? How can we resolve this? Or if siblings are arguing, great time. That's a soft skill, because as they get older and mature and they work with other people, they have to do conflict resolution. And those are a lot of the soft skills that can come out, not just using content, but just things that they can do on a daily basis in the house.
Talk about, because you specialize in social studies, I mean, education period, but really high specialization in social studies. So as a parent of, I have one in elementary school, one in middle school, one in high school. I'm telling my whole life story here. So we range the whole gamut. I can't say I've ever really been thrilled about not necessarily the social studies teachers, happy there, but with some of the curriculum. I didn't really think it touched on, you know, Islamic history or, you know, the Silk Road or aspects of, you know, our history that, you know, we could, you know, spend a little bit more time on it, but there's only 365 days in a year and even less in a school year. So we have to brush over some things. So how can we take advantage of this opportunity? What kind of resources can we use so that, you know, we're not wasting this time? Like you said, soft skills, let's get something out of this. If looking at it as just like, well, that was a loss.
Right.
That was a few wasted months.
I'm happy you mentioned that, because the whole concept of revisionist history is taking flight. Unfortunately, curriculum in the past has been written, you know, by people and that reflect themselves, and so they're going to put in things that they understand from their point of view. So if historically it was written by, you know, people who have a different story to tell, then of course that is going to be what's going to be added in the curriculum. Now, now that we have the beauty of the internet, what we have is a plethora of resources where people really don't have an excuse anymore of not knowing about a particular history. So for me, for example, what I always would like to say is now is an opportunity for parents to talk about the voices that are not usually heard in the curriculum, the lives of Indigenous people and what they have been through, the enslavement of African Americans, but not only enslavement of African Americans, but the contributions that they've given our country from the moment they set foot into North America until the present. And especially for Muslims, I think it's extremely important for parents to have this opportunity to discuss the history of African American Muslims and what they have provided and given the Muslim community in this country, because there's no way.
For example, Sapelo Island was you know, something I, you know, never heard of in school. My son wrote
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying my son ended up writing his 8th grade essay, you know, on that. And I think his teacher loved that. He learned so much.
Right.
But, you know, yeah, Sapelo Island, which was, you know, a place with a very rich, strong Islamic history I don't even think it gets a footnote in the history books.
Oh, no. And you also don't get, even if you do get a footnote, it's sometimes just a blurb. So for example, if you talk about the Haitian Revolution, okay, and we're talking about the small island of Haiti, which happened in, you know, the late 1700s, I'm sorry, the ripple effect of that, where in North America, slave owners were freaking out at the fact that there was this huge slave revolt in Haiti. What are the consequences here? But people don't hear about that at all because of this, you know, cause and effect and how all of that comes together. And I think this is a very good opportunity for parents to jump on the idea of, hey, you know what? I've always really wanted to teach you about such and such. Now is an opportunity. And I did provide some links. I think I can share my screen.
Yeah, thank you. That would be great.
If I share my screen, I have a
bunch
of research. Yes, here we go. So
confidential documents.
No, not at all. So what I would like to start with is I'm a huge advocate. You see my screen?
Yep. National Museum of the American
Indian. Okay. I'm also on the advisory board for this one, which I'm very proud of.
I didn't know that.
So the museum is amazing, but unfortunately it's closed. But the amazing thing about the resources from this website is if you scroll down, I'm going to just do, let's do no, actually there's one that's my favorite, which is this one. Is a treaty intended to be forever? So what you do is you can click on this, and when you go to the view part, of course, it gives you all the essentials. And, you know, as a parent, you may not understand a lot of the academic or education jargon, which is fine. But all of their resources, when you click on them, it gives you all of the information you need. But what I love about this is the fact that if you click on this one, it gives you from the point of view of present Native Americans or in the indigenous population. Like, they don't teach about Native Americans as if they're just something of the past.
Wow, that's
they are still living, they're still thriving, they're still, you know, continuing to do what they want to do. So that's a really cool thing about this website. And they have different tribes that you can work on. Also, if you click back, you can go back and you talk about, for the younger kids, like 6th and 7th grade, here's the Inca and the Inca Road and Inca waterfalls, and it shows how their technological advances back then were still something used today, like their bridges or their water systems. So it gives students an idea that we don't need, this is why we learn about history. History isn't just something that happened in the past. It's also something that has influenced the Spanish. When they went to the Incas and they saw their suspension bridges, they're like, wow, we've never seen something like that.
I feel like you just let us stumble on a gold mine. I've been to the museum. I love it. We're fortunate living close to Washington, D.C. that we can actually go when we want. But I don't know why I didn't think about them having a website. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's a wonderful resource. And I vetted this, and they have a lot of great resources that you can use. And again, the best part is they teach it from Native American perspective, but also what's happening now. And there's always like this little civic action project that you can work with it, which I think is phenomenal. Another great one is American Indian removal. What does it mean to remove a people? So imagine using that lesson to connect it to other people who have been displaced from their own countries, you know, or making that connection to Palestine or Syria, or people who have been expelled from other countries as well, and making those connections and how history is intertwined and people's stories are similar, although they come from different backgrounds.
I love
so
it.
that's one.
One thing, you know, do you think like a parent could say, read the digital lesson? We're having a hard time sometimes syncing our schedules. We're working. We're not always available at the times that our kids are being educated. And we could kind of read it over and our child reads it. It could become a nice dinner time.
Absolutely. And it's easy to navigate. Like you just click on the view and it gives you, you know, all the essential understandings, of course, things that you may not need to know, but it'll give you student instructions, teacher instructions, opposing viewpoints, historians. There's a little video. It's basically a lesson in a box, all at your fingertips right there. So a parent can sit there and look through it and say, okay, look through this lesson and just give me a synopsis, or what is something that you took away from this. And Native American history is really just a blurb now, unfortunately. And it's been almost my mission now to sit there and say, you know, we really have to implement more of their history, because you cannot talk about North America without the conquest and what happened to Native American or the American Indian removal. So that's one source.
Well, I feel like we're getting, I think probably because of your contributions, Abeer, I feel like we are getting better in the county where my children are educated. I've noticed some progression and improvement in materials in terms of being realistic and not sugarcoating what happened.
And I think there's a lot of you know, historians and a lot of educators coming out and saying we really need to stop sheltering our students from what our history is. They really have to know it. And I think my favorite quote, and everybody who knows me knows this, I met Professor Hassan Jeffries, who's at University Ohio State, the Ohio State. And when he was at a conference that I attended, he teaches African American studies on the college level. And his quote, which always resonates with me, is when students come to him and they hear about this history, they're not mad at him. They're mad at you when he's talking about secondary and middle and elementary teachers for not teaching them that real history. And that really resonated with me, because I feel like it is our job to really give what education is supposed to be about, but what our history is, and how are we going to use those examples for future generations for them to, you know, right what was wronged, by the way. Another thing really quick for that, if you are kids who would want to read, is this is a very good one for students. It's called An Indigenous Peoples History of the United States.
What level is that?
This is for young people, so it'd be about middle school. Yeah, I mean, if you have an avid reader, I would say 5th grade and up, but mainly more middle school. And it was written by, you know, Indigenous lady Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. So she does a really good example.
Can you put that up one more time first? Because I know Ayan is over there doing a great job of getting that out on Facebook too, so people can look this up. So the Indigenous.
Excuse my post-its, because that's what I always have. Yeah, Indigenous Peoples History of the United States.
Okay, great.
Yep. So it's called for young people, so it's specifically made, I mean, written in idea. I picked my 3 favorite, technically, or my 4 favorite. So, and these were also in my blog, but I thought it would be great to share them with everybody as well. Some people are visual learners, as we call them. The other one that I really love is Teaching Tolerance is a great resource in general. If you ever want to go, and you can just go to teachingtolerance.org or tolerance.org and go to their search button, and you can get whatever you're looking for. But they also have a podcast. And their podcast is all about, you know, history of enslavement, everything that's happened in, you know, in our country. There's a really cool one in there also about if you see here, episode 9, the recap key lessons on Indigenous enslavement. So they even bring in topics that people are like, I never knew that existed.
Abeer, I love you. This is amazing.
It's great. And it's also, the narration is great. It's great for students. It gives you the framework of what age, K-5 framework. And they do great resources as well for age levels, because they do start from K-5 and then they do middle school and then they do high school, because I know some of this history can be traumatic and can be hard for you to teach your young ones, but it doesn't mean you can't teach them this information or this history. So this is a really good, and podcasts are great because, we know our kids walk around with, their AirPods in their ear, or they want to listen to something, and they're short and they're not that, what's that?
Or make TikToks.
Yeah, I'm not even going to bother with that one. I refuse. So these would be really good for a parent, even for a parent, say, to listen to with their child and sit there and say, okay, let's have a conversation. What are they talking about? What's going on? What's being discussed in this actual topic for this one? So this is a really good website as well, but also podcasts, because podcasts are great. I love podcasts. They're amazing. Yeah.
Great.
Another one that I highly recommend, which is also for all levels. And the thing I love about C3 teachers, which is what is called also the IDM, or the inquiry design model, which I've like to fashion a lot of the lessons, is a lot of these are vetted, they're teacher made, and they're through different states. New York State has a lot of the stronger lessons, but they run the gamut. And the cool thing is you can just filter through. So it goes down all the way to like kindergarten.
Cool.
So if you have like a little one, like first grade, you can just go first grade. And then what pops up, it's taking forever. It gives you different topics. And then what you do, it provides everything for you. So say you want to talk about global citizen, what it means to be a global citizen. You click on it. You can either do PDF or Word doc. So we're just going to do Word doc, for example. And what I love about C3 and the IDM model is the fact that they give you everything. Again, it's like a lesson in a box, but everything goes back to something global, something that kids can actually discuss and talk about. What does it mean to be a responsible citizen in my classroom? What does it mean to be a responsible citizen of the community? So it's really hooking students in to make them feel like they are global citizens, or they have some sort of civic action that they have to do based on a topic that they're studying. So this is broken down. Go ahead.
Questions. Is that where we can ask our children questions down there? Is that, or
these?
Yeah, you see where it says compelling questions down there? If you scroll.
Oh, up.
Yeah, scroll up, sorry.
Like the very first one's like the supporting questions right there.
Like, how can we use this? First of all, are these resources free?
Yes, this is free. Okay. And what it is if you keep going, it gives you everything, and it also provides the resources. So you click down and everything is there for you.
Wow.
All the readings, all the, questions, everything that you need. So it's basically, and with the great thing about this is the fact that you can use one question, you can use all the questions, you can kind of pick and choose whatever you feel is necessary to have your kids complete whatever the task that you want them to do.
We don't have to put it together. They're doing this for us.
Wow,
right. I love it.
Exactly.
So nice. Exactly. We have a question from the audience. If we can jump into it, can you recommend any historical fiction books that are close to the actual events?
Historical fiction books. I hate to say that I'm not a big historical fiction person.
Okay.
What age level are we talking about, though? That would be a better question as well.
Yeah, no, they didn't state here.
Right.
Bull Run, I think, was one of them. I know my son did that one on the Civil War. But yeah, I have a child that loves historic fiction. So honestly, I should know too, but I can't think of them off the top of my head.
That's a really good question. I can definitely get back
to our viewer though. Yeah, you could maybe get back to us, write another experts column for us.
Yeah, I think I'm with us writing curriculum, we always try to focus on, we did the Harriet Tubman graphic novel. Graphic novels are huge now. And I think they're a great resource and a great way for students to learn, because that's also a different modality that kids use, and they're very familiar with the pictures or the animation or however they do it. So that would be.
We have another question for you about making social studies exciting for my child. So of course you talked earlier about there kind of being this, our children don't always see themselves in their history lessons. So they've built up, this sort of kind of hesitation, right? Or a kind of a bias against social studies. So how do we help overcome that bias and get them excited when we say, hey, let's go over these questions, or let's listen to this podcast together? Because, you know, just to get them there, you know, they make assumptions about what social studies is.
Right. I think the best way to get your children interested in social studies or history is to pick a topic that really interests them, and then have them. I think we don't give our children enough responsibility and enough time for them to navigate and do their own discovery. I think that's the best way to start, because we always kind of have conscripted for them what they need to learn. Where, like you said, your son loves historical fiction, and I'm sure there are particular topics, like some kids love the Civil War, while some kids love to talk about, you know, women's history in the United States. I would start with a topic that they like. And then I would also start with museums. Museums have a wonderful array of resources that you can use, whether it's World War II or whether, like I said, it's African American history, whatever. I would definitely start with the topic that your child likes, and then take it from there, and then slowly start integrating. Because once you start with one topic, especially if you're talking about, say, American history, there's no way it's not interconnected with something else. And then you're going to come with this rich history of all these other events and people and places that happen, just starting from that one particular topic.
And in regards to the history of a lot of, I mean, our community is so diverse. I think we are the most diverse faith-based, you know, community in America, which is really exciting. And a lot of those histories get overlooked. Tell us about Altair, your company, Altair Education Consulting. I know that you provide some resources through that, and you're very passionate, I know, because of other conversations I've had with you about kind of diversifying access, you know, to the information, and including more people, and you know, representation is really important in the plans.
Yeah, well, I think people are realizing, a lot of people are realizing now that, you know, and I've been reading a lot of Twitter threads, and unfortunately, where one Twitter thread I was following about parents who were like, well, my child, when they were in school, they were labeled, or they were bored, or they weren't even they weren't enjoying school, and now they're thriving at home. So it kind of is a testament to the fact that when you really personalize the education for children, and we're not saying you can do it for 150,000 students in one county, but you could really make it where there are parts and pieces that reflect your students as well. So for me, that's the main goal that I started my company, is I wanted to branch out and to create materials and to be a resource for people who may be homeschooling their kids, or may not find what they need in the school that they're at right now, or they're just lifelong learners and they're like, you know, I never knew that existed. But I also have other colleagues who are very talented and who would also like to branch out. For example, I have a colleague who's huge on graphic novels and comics, and he does a wonderful job with using that to teach social justice. So that would be a great way to integrate it in my business, because we also have other companies who may be interested. But I also wanted to make sure that little things that I may not be able to do on a day-to-day, I would like to provide for other people as well, because maybe they can take it and run with it and use it as well.
So who are your clients? Homeschooling parents, education schools?
I've had museums contact me to create PD. I did create a PD on Harriet Tubman. She's one of my favorites. We did that, especially revolving around the movie. I had a graphic novel that will be published
PD
soon.
meaning professional development.
Professional development. I'm sorry, I'm talking in education talk. Yeah, professional development for teachers regarding an exhibit at the museum. I've had, you know, parents personally contact me and say, hey, you know, my kid is working on a project. Can you provide some resources or some help on how they can make their project better? I don't know anything about history. I mean, I get that a lot. So that's who my clients are. My business is, you know, still up and coming. So alhamdulillah, I've had people reach out, and I'm, you know, branching out. I also, you know, there are companies, I've worked with companies who work with other teachers, and they want to know how to address the needs of Muslim or Arab students, or they want to know how to sell or talk about their particular company with teachers. So that's also another avenue of, teachers are a unique group of people, and they respond differently to different people as well. So knowing how to speak to teachers and how to present that information is also very important.
We're getting another question. We're holding you past your time. I hope that's okay.
No, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks.
A viewer wants to know, what are sources for Islamic history?
Well, I did share one on Islamic Spain, which I think is the pinnacle of Islamic history. And I think that's a really good resource to use. And the reason why I say Islamic Spain is because without Islamic Spain, Europe and the rest of the West would not be what it is today, because that was actually the gateway. So I would start with that. And I do have the website also that I could share with you. And it was also in my resources, but it has lessons, it has all these activities. And again, the reason why I would focus on Islamic Spain first is because that is the gateway to the rest of Europe. And also 1492 was very important because the downfall of Islamic Spain, without that, you wouldn't have had, 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, all of that happened. So that was intertwined. So I would definitely use that as a resource.
My family and I, we were fortunate to visit the Alhambra once. And so I found out while I was standing in line to get in that it's the most popular tourist attraction in Spain.
Wow. I can see why.
So their Islamic history of Spain is the most frequent.
Can I just add one more comment really quick before we say, so I know going back to the kids are not excited about social studies, and there's a reason for that. It's very boring. It's taught from an aspect of it doesn't relate to us, especially children of color. And if children of color see themselves are either in some sort of dire need, there's no contribution. And this is like a shameless plug, and I'm not getting anything out of it, but Stamped is a must read. And the reason why I say this is because this is written with the student in mind. It's really the history of the United States, and it's written in lingo that students understand. And Jason Reynolds is a young author, of course, young adult author, I'm sorry. And he does a great job of putting together, it's called Racism, Anti-Racism in You. And it talks about all of these, America from the moment they stepped a foot onto North America until almost the present. And it really gives a different take on, topics that people were taught in history class. Now you're thinking, oh my God, that's not exactly how it was. And really good example for me was him comparing like W.E. Du Bois to Marcus Garvey. And, we know that from my history, Marcus Garvey was looked at some eccentric character, but when you read the book, you really get the backstory as to who he was and why he was. And it really doesn't vilify the people that historically were vilified. It really gives a real rich history, but in a sense that kids really enjoy it because he speaks like them. In the book.
What age range is this?
This could be starting from middle school all the way up. And I remember the author, Jason Reynolds, saying he wanted to write a book that whether it was a child in middle school or a person who's like in their 70s wanted to read history, didn't really have the time, but also wanted a little bit more of a different flavor. And that would be the book for it. So it really is for anybody, but it would definitely start for middle school children.
And again, there's an intersection with Stamped. You're doing something, Altair Education.
I want to do, yes, like a book study regarding this one. Now with Ramadan coming up, that might be on hold until after Ramadan just to get, my ideas together. But I wanted to actually do that probably pro bono because it's such a rich book that I was thinking of either doing a book club through Google Classroom or some other format. So inshallah, that will be coming down and I'll be definitely advertising.
Look out for that. Okay, great. Yeah,
inshallah.
I want to encourage everyone to go to, again, our CARE newsroom. Abeer has written an excellent article there. Thank you so much for sharing all of these.
Thanks for having me.
My kids are going to really benefit from this. I hope that all of our viewers feel the same way. I'm going to be checking out these websites, and
inshallah,
I think I'm going to head right into those podcasts with my kids.
They're really great. You won't regret it. Trust me. Yeah. I hope not.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
A lot of great resources, and inshallah, have a great Ramadan.
You too,
I know I'll be talking to you soon.
Inshallah.
You live in my community, and I know you're working hard, Abeer, because I know you're a resource teacher and you're creating a lot of lesson plans right now. And so I just want to thank you so much as a parent for working hard and not skipping a beat and putting that.
I do what I can for the people.
Thank you. Okay.
Take
care. Good night. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Come back tomorrow night for another episode of The Daily Dose. We really value your time with us. We hope that you learned something valuable tonight. Feel free to send us questions. We'd love to bring experts on that talk about and inform on issues that are really of interest to you. So interact with us, like this video if you liked it, check out our website, sign up to get our videos, and remember this Ramadan, inshallah, and even now, when you're looking at causes to donate to, CARE is a nonprofit Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization. Mashallah, we are the largest and oldest organization of our kind in the United States. So we hope that you will read up more about our organization and really just support us with your du'as and your support. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye. Assalamu alaikum.